Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video I'm going to review how to do some of the problems in the 7.2 worksheet on ratios and similar polygons. Remember that you should first either watch the full video where I explain more background on this topic, or else read through the examples and the material in the textbook. So our objective is to identify similar polygons and then apply properties of similar polygons to solve problems. This is a very important lesson, so you want to make sure that you understand it completely. So similar polygons have the same shape but not the same size. And you need to identify the congruent angles. Some of them will be marked, some of them you'll have to figure out, and the corresponding sides. So it's really important that you do that correctly. You can write a similarity statement, that's what this is here, and you can find the similarity ratio by looking at the corresponding side ratios. So there's all that information you can find, and we will find. Whoops. So there's a definition here that goes through another example of that. In the first problem, it says to identify the other pairs of congruent angles and corresponding sides. So some of those are given, and some you'll find. I think I'm going to do number 2 with you. All right, so in number 2, we have a quadrilateral. First, we're going to identify all the congruent angles. So look for the angles that are marked congruent. And let's see, I'll start with angle A. And remember, to make an angle mark, you can use the less than sign on your keyboard, is congruent to angle. And now we need to go over here and find another one that's marked with 2 arc lines like that. That would be angle Q. And we also have that angle B is congruent to, now it's 90 degrees, so yes, it's congruent to either of these, but try to pick the one that's in the corresponding location, which would be angle R, because Q and R form a side and A and B form a side. So angle B would be congruent to angle R. Angle D is marked with 1 arc measure mark, and so is angle T. So angle D is congruent to angle T. And then our last one would be angle C is congruent to angle S. Now the next one are the sides. The sides are a little bit trickier. To find the sides that are corresponding, we're going to write them in ratios, like they do here. And for each ratio of sides, we will go ahead and find the ratio of them so that it'll make it easier to do the next step, which is the similarity ratio. All right, so let's do AB first. So AB was corresponding because it has 2 angle marks to the right angle there. That was the one I had underlined over here. The first part of that would be the Q and then the R. It is not correct to do RQ. It's QR because Q and A are congruent angles. And let's put their numbers in because they both have a side length given. AB is 6.15. and QR is 12.3. Let's simplify that and see what is the, and it's okay if it's a decimal, but let's simplify that because if we want to find the similarity ratio, which we'll be doing, you'll need to know what this is. 0.5 or 1 to 2. So you can either write that as 1 over 2 or 0.5. All right, let's keep going. So we did AB and QR. Let's do BC. Okay, so BC was the right angle over the right angle, and that would be corresponding to RS in the larger quadrilateral. Let's fill in their numbers. So BC is 3 and RS is 6. That one's easy to simplify. We know that's 1/2 or 0.5. All right, let's keep going around. Let's do this side next. So we're kind of going in a circle around here. Now we're doing these 2 sides. Whoops, that's supposed to be green. Green. So CD, let's see, C is the right angle and D is the one marked with 1 arc. And here we have S is the right angle and T is marked with 1 mark. So ST. And let's fill in CD is 3.5. and ST is 7. That's also 1/2. You should find that all of the similarity ratios are the same as you complete this, because otherwise the two figures would not be similar. All right, we have one more side to go here. We have DA, which is 1 mark to 2 marks, and TQ. So DA is corresponding to TQ, which, and let's fill in our sides here, 4/8. And of course we see that's also 1/2 or 0.5. So when they ask you to find the similarity ratio, which they'll do on the next problems, the similarity ratio would be 1/2, because that's what we found for all of these. And the similarity statement, I'm just going to abbreviate that, similarity statement would be which figure is similar to which figure. So when we name these, we have to go in the correct order. Let's start at A. Well, no, let's start up here at D. Okay, so we'll go, this is quadrilateral, so you don't have to write quadrilateral first. We can just write the vertices. Let's go D and then go around this way. D, A, B, C would be similar. That's the similar symbol, sorry. And now find, that would go T, and then we'd go to Q, because D has the 1 mark and T has the 1 mark. And then next we went to A, which has 2, and Q has 2. So that'd be similar to T, Q, and then keep going around the circle, R, S. And that's the similarity statement. So in the next couple problems, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to mark the congruent angles, say which angle is congruent to which angle, the corresponding sides, and then the similarity ratio and the similarity statement. And do that for all of these next ones. Now on some of them, you won't be able to, like in this one, these are parallelograms. So let's go back to thinking about what a parallelogram means. Parallelogram means that opposite angles are congruent. So angle G would be congruent to angle E. Angle H would be congruent to angle F, because opposite angles are congruent. Also, opposite sides are congruent. So even though they don't have everything marked, you can use what you learned previously in this class to finish marking everything else, because of the conditions that are necessary to be a parallelogram. Those things would all be true. So then you can go ahead and do what we just did, mark all the angles that are congruent, like angle E will be congruent to angle. Now you're going to have to decide if you want to, let's just go ahead and say that E will be congruent to W, and then maybe go this way. So then we'll say that F is congruent to, we'll put T there. And then keep going to put all the congruent angles. And then the corresponding sides, let's start with EF, and then pick a corresponding side to EF. So you can see that that's the long side of the parallelogram, and I'll say that that is corresponding to TW. They're not congruent, but they correspond. And let's fill in those numbers so that then we'll know what the similarity ratio is. So EF is 84. And TW is 60. And if you simplify this, you'll get the similarity ratio. And you should find that the similarity ratio is the same as you do the other corresponding sides. So let's see. It's hard to see what. Let's do 2. 2 goes in there, 42/30. I divided them both by 2. I can see I can keep going. If I divide each of these by 2, no, let's divide each of these by 6. Divide 42 by 6, I'll get 7. Divide 30 by 6, I'll get 5. So this is the similarity ratio, is what you get for the sides when you simplify their two side lengths. And the statement is going to be quadrilateral, like E, H, G, F, or whichever order you decide, you know, if you start here and go this way, or if you start and go that way, and make sure you have corresponding sides